All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Meditation and Spiritual Practice. And in our Torah reading, we're right in the construction of the Mishkan, or of the tabernacle, the dwelling place. And this is, remember, we've come from the revelation at Mount Sinai. We've come um, from the from a lot of the details of the laws and everything. And now last week's Parsha and this week's Tetzaveh is all about what happens in the Mishkan, what's part of the construction on the inside, on the outside. And one of the things, there's two aspects to the tabernacle or the Mishkan that's important to understand. The first is that it's something that's grounded and physical, that allows the people to experience God's presence in their midst in a concrete way. Because if we know that the experience at Mount Sinai that kind of blew their minds, they were seeing sounds, hearing colors, it was very psychedelic, it was very, it was very out of body, according to the sages. They weren't able to really hold on to those insights, because we know that as soon as Moses did not come down from the mountain, after a certain amount of time they were expecting, they immediately turned to building the golden calf, right? They didn't have whatever they experienced at Mount Sinai. It wasn't in their midst. It wasn't the divine presence in their midst. They had to almost expand out of their bodies to do it. So instead, what God does is gives the instructions for the Mishkan, for something. And that word Mishkan for tabernacle, it also comes from the Hebrew word shachan, or shekhinah, which means to dwell within. So the sense was how to build this in a way that the divine presence would be in their midst. And we can think about this as what are the things that we do in our lives that allow us to be present to the sacred dimension of life. The primary thing is mitzvot. Whenever we're acting and doing things that are about affirming our connections with others, we are bringing that divine presence, allowing that divine presence to be realized, felt, experienced by us and others. So in a sense, the creating of the Mishkan, the story that we're having in the Torah, is a way of trying to think about how do we create space in our own lives for the divine presence to be here. So that's one thing to know about it. The other thing was that the Mishkan was supposed to be a microcosm of creation. And remember, creation not as something, we know it from the story as something that happened in time linearly, right? Like first there was let there be light, and first day there was light, and then they separated the waters on the second day, and animals and all this, and it kind of, the story tells it chronologically. But what we know is that from Kabbalah and from Jewish mysticism is that even though the story is told chronologically, because that's the way that stories have to be told, it's really trying to describe creation here and now, moment by moment. And each one of the days of creation is actually considered one of the sphirot, or the divine attributes. And what they do is they encompass greater and greater concentric circles. So in a sense, at its heart, the first day is the day of chesed, or of light, or of loving kindness. And if you imagine that as a circle. Now the second day, gevurah, or the separation, expands and contains within it chesed. Contains, even though gevurah is about strength and boundary and all of that, it still has within it chesed, that loving kindness, that first day. And then as you go to the third day, that also encompasses the second day and the first day. Chesed and Gevura is within Tiferet. So in a sense, the idea is that in this moment, here and now, creation at every moment, these, these divine attributes that we can all participate in our lives are present here and now. And they are in kind of layers of depth that can be symbolized by these circles. I think what's most important about all of this is that all of these attributes are things that are accessible to us here in creation, here and now. So the Mishkan then is a microcosm of creation. So in the Mishkan is a way to connect with all of these attributes in a way that is more physical and tangible. And so the teaching that I want to share with you this morning comes from the Alter Rebbe, or Reb Shneur Zalman of Liadi, one of the disciples of the Baal Shem Tov, from his text Or Torah, the light of Torah. And he's talking specifically about, in the Mishkan, the menorah, or the lampstand, and the oil that's in the lampstand. Remember that this is way before the Hanukkah story. These, it's probably 1,000 years before the Hanukkah story. But that the whole Hanukkah about the menorah was that the oil was supposed to last for each day of the festival. And it was customary to light the menorah in the temple every single day, specifically. And so the Hanukkah miracle is there, right? There was only supposed to be enough oil for one of the days. It lasted for 8. But really, this menorah is something that is more a core part of the worship. And what he says is he notices that in the story of creation, every creation is done by utterances, by God's utterances. God said, "Let there be light." God said, and it was the speaking that brought each thing into creation, except for the very beginning, right? The very beginning, it says, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. It didn't say that God said. The Torah doesn't open with God said. It opened with God created, right? So there's something about this, the difference between this opening statement and all of the rest of the utterances. And what he says is that all of the rest of the utterances, which symbolize all these divine attributes that we can live and think about and talk about, whether we're talking about kindness or we're talking about justice or talking about compassion, all of these things we can talk about. But the very root of creation is something that cannot be spoken about. That's why it doesn't say God said. There's something about the very core of that divine presence that is not in thought, that is not in conception, that can only be experienced. And so Rabbi Shneur Zalman says that if we're looking at the Mishkan as a parallel to creation, then it is the oil and the menorah that symbolizes that which can't be spoken about, that which is beyond all of the divine attributes, is completely open to experience, to infinite depth. And it's that is what we're connecting with when we use that symbol of the menorah, is that aspect of a divine presence that is beyond word and beyond thought, and that can only be experienced. So that's what we're going to explore this morning in our meditation, is that in a sense our meditation is a mishkan, if you will, right? It's an intentional way that we open to the indwelling of God's presence. We sit in a certain way, we close our eyes, we follow certain instructions. These are like following the instructions of the Mishkan. And so then as we begin to navigate our inner world, and all that goes in it, it's the menorah. It's being able to connect to that aspect of service that is beyond word and beyond concept, which we'll be exploring. So find a comfortable position that you can sit in for a period of time without moving around too much. We'll start with a nigun, with a melody, and then we'll move into the meditation. And I really invite you to sing in your space. You know, you're muted, nobody else can hear you, but let yourself tap into this melody. I die 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 die. I die die die. I die 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 die. I die die die. I die 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 die. I die die die. I die 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 die. I die die. I die 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 die. I die die die. I die 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 die. I die I. I die 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 die. I die die die. I die 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 die. I die die. I die 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 die. I die 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 die. I die 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 die. Yada die die die. Yada die die die. Yada die 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 die. I die 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 die. I die die. I die 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 die. I die die die. I die 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 die. I die die die. I die 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 die. I die die die. I die 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 die. I die die. Yada die die die. Yada die 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 die. Yada die die die. Yada die die die. Yada die die die. Yada die 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 die. I die 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 die. I die die. We'll just begin by settling into the physical experience of this moment. Notice the pressure of your bottom and the chair. Notice the length of your legs as they come out of your hip sockets, bending at your knees, and the sensation in your legs that move all the way down to your feet and your toes and the bottom of your feet as they contact the ground. And as you stay aware of that position of your legs and the contact of your feet and your bottom, also expand your awareness to include the distance between the bottom of your spine and the top of your head. Notice the way your arms hang out of your shoulder sockets and the resting place of your hands. See if you can be present to the experience of your entire body in space, the shape of it, the form, the pressure from gravity, the air that touches your face or your skin. And as you are conscious of the sensations that go along with this body form, notice the movement of breath. Notice where the air enters the nostrils or the mouth. The way the body gently expands to make room for the inhale. And then notice where that inhale switches and turns into an exhale. following the air out of the mouth or the nostrils, noticing all the sensation that's present with the exhale. And then you notice where that exhale switches over to an inhale, and you feel the air enter the body, expansion of the belly or the chest on the inhale, still present to the position of your legs and the pressure in your body form as you're also aware of the sensation of breath. Let your awareness also be present to sounds that may be in the room or outside. Maybe it's birds chirping or other rustling in the room, or the sound of my voice coming through the computer. So you're really aware of all of it, the entire symphony: breath, body, sounds in the space. There's also space for any thoughts or images that arise in the mind. As soon as you notice, allow yourself to become aware of the entirety of your experience, not just the thought in your mind, but the breath and the thought and the sensation. Noticing that all is unfolding in this present moment. But the one thing that is steady is your attention, your awareness. It witnesses everything. Really using your breath as an anchor, that even as you're aware of everything in your moment to moment experience, make sure to stay present with that movement of breath, letting that be your anchor for this moment. You can notice all the objects of your awareness, all the stuff that is occurring. There's breath, there's body sensations, there's sounds, there's concepts or images or thoughts in the mind. Everything just unfolding, arising, falling, changing. Now allow your awareness, allow yourself to be present to the space between the objects of your awareness. What is it that's present that's not sensation or breath or thought? What is the space beyond word, beyond conception, that is in between all the objects of awareness? The space that is not only in between, but holds, encompasses all of the objects of awareness. Let yourself be absorbed in that space. This is the oil of the Mishkan. This is that which is present in moment to moment creation, that all life and form arises out of and disappears back into. It is the Ner Tamid, the eternal flame. I'm going to be quiet for a period of time, and I invite you to let yourself be absorbed in the space between that has no form, no concept. There's a certain amount of trust that's necessary to allow yourself to be without any familiar handhold, to be in the no thing, in the Ayin. And if you find yourself lost in a particular form, whether it's a body sensation or a thought, as soon as you're aware that your mind has contracted around that particular form, connect back with the breath. Begin to notice all the objects in your awareness. And once you have some stability of being present with what is, allow your attention to open to that space in between.
Yadadai-dai-dai, yadadai-dai-dai-dai-dai, yadadai-dai-dai, 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 yadadai-dai-dai-dai-dai, ai-dai-dai-dai-dai, ai-dai-dai.